So far what we've been talking about is the overhead cast. There's one more cast I'd like to show you before we leave you. What it is, it's called the roll cast. So it's really good for throwing a cast out into the water without throwing a back cast. Because of course sometimes you've got a tree behind you, you throw a back cast, you'll get the tangles in the tree and you'll lose your fly. So the benefit of a roll cast is we still get a cast out in front, but we don't get the back cast in the tree. What we do, position the line beside us, so the tip of the line's opposite us, and we cause what we call a D-loop to form underneath the rod tip. So we have our rod up here. This is the same position as we normally are in our back cast, but instead of the line in the air, the line's in a D-loop with the tippet and the leader right beside us. Our forward cast, all we do is make the same cast as we normally do, drive forward, and the cast rolls out. This is a perfect place for a roll cast because we've got the trees behind us, and if we throw a normal back cast into those, we're going to get tangled. We're obviously going to lose a lot of flies. So we still want to get a cast out into the river because that's where the fish are. So what I do is, first thing, make sure we start without any slack in the system. Remember, rod tip down, take all the wiggles out by stripping in some line. So let me get this out into the water. Starting low, what I do is I pick the rod tip up, draw it across us, and I reposition the leader and the tip of the line just opposite me. And underneath the rod tip, what you'll see is the line will belly down and create what we call a D-loop. So let me reposition across, create the D-loop, and over. Simple cast. Remembering our front cast, our forward cast is exactly the same as our normal overhead cast. We're going to drive forward and stop. The rod will straighten, throw the line for us, and we'll get a great cast. There's a couple of common problems that we can have when we're making these roll casts. The first one is that instead of positioning the tip of the line in the leader or the anchor point close to us, if we have the anchor point too far out into the river, we're going to get too much line stick and it's going to be really hard to make the cast. I'll show you how that works. So if I try and make a cast out here, it's really hard to get that line to work because all the lines in front of us, there's too much stick on the water and it really doesn't work. The other problem is when we go to make a D-loop, but all the line is still sitting in front of the rod tips instead of behind it. So it's a really weak, poor D-loop. What we need is, the point of the D-loop is to get some weight behind the rod tip. That weight is what loads the rod. So I'll show you. If all the weight's sitting in front of the rod, very hard to make the cast. But if we've got a nice D-loop behind it, it's very easy to make that cast, and it rolls out really nicely. You know, are you rolling? Yep. The funny thing about fly fishing is you can try and do everything perfectly, but you never will. It's really not a perfectible sport. But if you stick to the principles we talked about, I think you'll really enjoy it. And hey, there's so many things to learn once you're on the water. So I'm sure I'll see you there soon.